Hello, Scouts. It's Mr. Kugler, and we're going down under to Australia today, in our minds at least, and in our cooking, by using a Australian-style bake oven for camping called a Bedourie. And unlike the traditional Dutch ovens that we use here in the United States, that are cast iron Dutch ovens with legs and all and a rim on the top, the Bedourie is a steel camp oven that had to be seasoned just like a Dutch oven, but is a lot lighter and is a lot more resilient to being knocked around if it was being carted around, say on a mule or in a chuck wagon or some other type of equipment. So these are a big hit down under in Australia, and we're going to have some fun playing with it today. It wouldn't be right to use this without doing an Australian type recipe. So today we're going to do a damper, and this damper recipe really doesn't get much easier. It's 2 cups of self-rising flour. It is a pinch of salt, which equates to about 1/8 of a teaspoon, and it's a cup of water. And we'll work the water in, and we may not use the full 8 ounces of the water. And then when our damper is formed into a nice ball, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the top of it to give a nice crisp finish to it. So let's get started using our Bedourie and making an Australian damper. So one of the challenges of using a Bedourie is that the metal on the bottom, being in direct contact with no legs underneath, it's going to be a little prone to burning if we were to put our damper, which is a type of bread, right in the bottom. So for today, we're going to use a wire rack, which will elevate it about 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch off the bottom of the Bedourie. And we're going to use a pizza screen. You certainly could use a piece of foil. To make sure that the damper doesn't stick to the pizza screen, before I forget, I'm just going to give it a little spray, some non-stick oil, and we're going to put this right in our camp oven, and then we're going to put the lid right on top. Now, just like when we Dutch oven cook, it'll be good to preheat our oven in our fire. I've got a good bed of coals going, so let me grab my shovel and bring and create a bed of coals right over here on the side. So I just came in to check my heat. And I want to try to make sure my coals are evenly spread so that I don't get hot spots in any one particular place. Take the bail off. And for now, I'm just going to put it on top of the lid. And I'm going to add some coals to the top to get it preheating. Come in, get the temperature right. Now would be a good time to add some additional wood to our fire to make sure I have ample coals throughout the baking process. So as I mentioned today, we're using self-rising flour. So what is self-rising flour, and what if I don't have self-rising flour? Do I need to go out and buy a bag? Well, actually, self-rising flour is flour that simply has some salt added and some baking powder added. So you can go online and get the equivalent amount for baking powder and salt to take your regular flour and turn it into self-rising flour. So let's get started with our 2 cups of self-rising flour. Now I'm going to add a pinch of salt. But if I just took this big box and started dumping, I'd run the risk of dumping too much salt in. So what I'm going to do is take, and in my mixing cup, just dump out about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And I got too much that time, so that was good planning. Now I could take and pour back in my box what I don't need and just add my pinch of salt. So I'll take my self-rising flour and my pinch of salt and mix them together. So in preparation for this recipe, I took a Nalgene bottle and I measured out 8 ounces of water. Separately, I have another bottle of water just in case I find that I need to add a little extra water to this. But let me start with almost all of the 8 ounces. I'm going to add it and mix it in. So the trick is not to overmix this. You just want to get it so that it forms a ball. If you end up with too much water in it, you could always add and have ready some of that self-rising flour to be able to add to it. So I have my nice little ball. And now what I'm going to do is just simply add this to our Bedourie camp oven. So I start by taking the lid off, put it off to the side here. The nice thing, because the lid has about 1.5 inches depth in it, I can put it down on the ground here without worrying about getting the inside dirty. So I will remove my Dutch oven gloves, come and get our nice damper. Place it in the middle. Remember, we said we were going to add a little bit of flour to help bring some crunch on the top. Dusted it with the flour. Now we're going to take a paring knife and we're just going to make a cut across, right across the top. That'll give the moisture some place to escape. It will look nice and pretty when it's done. So with our damper inside of our Bedourie camp oven, we're going to take and put the lid back on. To help even out the heat, just like a normal Dutch oven, I'll pick up and give it a spin. And then during the baking process, I'll do the same thing with the lid. Periodically, I'll come in and check for my heat. I see I need a little more heat on the top. I'll add that and I'll check the bottom as well. So we'll let our damper bake, and we'll know it's done when we could tap on it and it sounds hollow in the inside. Well, Scouts, it's been interesting playing around with this Australian oven. I put it up on a lid stand underneath it because I realized the bottom was getting snuffed out. This is a new Dutch oven for me, or camp oven for me. So this took a little longer, pushing on about 45 minutes or so. But I just checked it, it's looking great. And spun it around, kept adding coals. I wasn't as attentive as maybe I should have been because, truth be known, I've been doing a couple other videos today and I was taking advantage of time to clean up. So I could have been a little more attentive to coals, keeping them on top there, and it would have cooked quicker. So let's take a look inside, and I'll show you what this damper looks like, and then we'll give it the old taste test. I'm going to steady it because it's a little uneven. So with my gloves on, let's go get that damper out of the camp oven. Certainly is pretty. Give it a cut. It's fully cooked all the way through. Look at that. Put a little butter on that. Bottom is nice and crispy, but not burnt. The butter makes just makes this delicious, along with the damper itself is delicious, I should say, too. So Scouts, here we have a damper from down under, from Australia. So simple to make. 2 cups of self-rising flour, a pinch of salt, and 8 ounces of water. Be careful with the water, don't add it all. Make sure it comes together as a ball. We baked it in our Australian-styled camp oven over coals, with coals on top. We had it up on a cooling rack along with a pizza screen just so we got good airflow. And we ended up with a delicious, crunchy on the outside, fully cooked on the inside damper. So I hope this damper and this Australian style camp oven have inspired you to get out with your patrol and troop mates and try different and new things. But most of all, I hope you get an opportunity to get out in the outdoors and enjoy yourself.